everyone, to this episode of the Talent Fix, and I'm delighted for this episode to be joined by Crystel Rynne, who's the CEO of HRLocker. So welcome, Crystel, and maybe you can kick us off just with a quick short intro for yourself.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Barry, for having me today. I actually was surprised when was the last time we spoke that I was thinking, my goodness, was it COVID when we spoke? How
I know,
time
that's how we measure
flies.
everything now. Yeah.
Exactly. So Barry, I am the CEO of HRLocker. I've been in this position for the last 12 months. Up till then, I suppose my career started originally in HR. I started with the HR consultancy company, working with SMEs, going into companies and setting up their HR, managing their day-to-day HR. Then I moved into managing a skillnet as well, based here in Clare. And then around 2017, moved in with HRLocker and started off around the kind of product marketing and the marketing bit, and totally changed direction from HR and really, really loved the marketing side of it and focused on the marketing side of HRLocker for about 3 to 4 years. And then changed from marketing again into the operational side of things. And I did that for another 4 years and loved the operational side of things because I love to go into different areas within the company and figure out how to improve them. And then the opportunity came in the end of when the company was purchased in the end of 24 to take the role of CEO. And that is where I am at the moment.
Brilliant. Okay, well, let's dive into some of your own research. So I was really interested to see that you published some research there showing that 2/3 of Irish SMEs may be at risk of GDPR breaches because of how HR records are stored, and that many businesses, they're afraid of failing a WRC inspection. So from what you're seeing, why are so many companies struggling with the fundamentals of people management?
I think a lot of the time it's because they don't have a central function. And that doesn't mean that people need to have a HR function. It means that there needs to be somebody responsible for where the records are kept.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a HR manager, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And a lot of people still will have, this yourself, Barry, CVs sitting in 25 different managers' inboxes. They don't have their interview notes stored in one spot, from even as basic as being your employee contracts and letters of engagement, things like that is where are they kept. They could be just kept in your inbox, on your shared drive, and there isn't a local place. So what I like to say to people from an audit perspective is that, can you do, in 15 minutes, can you get the information that you're asked for? So if somebody comes in, WRC comes in tomorrow and they say, give me all Barry's records, how fast is it going to take you to go and get them?
Yeah, no, 100%. That's okay. And that's a really good measuring, for how effective the system is. But if you see companies still using spreadsheets, email, shared folders, at what point does that approach simply just stop working for a growing business?
I think that if you're hitting 10 to 15 people, you need to be looking at something. And most of the time, what people come to us is around holiday requests, is because at that stage, you've got 10 to 15 people contacting you constantly, trying to manage holidays, and that becomes irritating. But our biggest competitor still to this day, from a HRIS perspective, is Excel. We go into companies at 200 people and still manage through Excel.
The tool that just won't go away.
Yeah, exactly. And it can be a very effective system. I'm not, I still live in Excel. So it can be a very effective system. And that's where I think that, it doesn't actually matter so much in terms of if you're using a HRIS or Excel. It really is it a central database? Where's your actual source of truth? And that's where companies struggle with, is where's your source of truth? Is
single source of truth.
Single source of truth. Is it in one Excel spreadsheet, or does every single manager have their own spreadsheet?
Yeah, it's the dream for most business owners. But I know, as a business owner myself, it's just very frustrating when you invest in these expensive CRMs and then you still have people in the business coming to you saying, oh, I just want to set up a spreadsheet for this or for that.
100%.
It's just very frustrating. You cannot get people off Excel, it seems. But
and that's exactly it. Is that, I always say this to anybody, is that any system you put in, whether it's a HR system or, like I said, a CRM system, if you're not using it, it's not going to make you compliant. Like, no system is going to make you compliant. It's actually how you use it. And
Hmm.
so you're always come back to that people element, that it's actually making sure on a day-to-day basis that your managers, your employees, everybody who's supposed to be using it is actually using it.
Yeah, no, 100%. Okay, so if we want to shift the conversation just to a recruitment angle, bearing in mind that's typically what we talk about on this podcast. I mean, you work with thousands of SMEs through HRLocker. What are you seeing right now when it comes to hiring? And do you think companies are finding it harder to attract the right talent today?
So I think twofold answer to that question, Barry, if that's okay, is firstly,
Sure.
from a company perspective, I think employers have changed, that they're no longer hiring for growth. They're now being a little bit more strategic in their hiring, in that what we've seen over the last 5 or 6 years, people were projecting 30-40% growth, specifically around the tech market, and they would hire pre-growth. And that's where we saw those layoffs in the last number of years from a tech perspective, because the growth wasn't as good as what they expected. So I think people are a little bit more conservative now in regards to their actual hiring, and that they're waiting to hit the numbers rather than actually hiring for growth. So I definitely see that shift in companies, which I think is positive.
Yeah.
I also think that from a candidate perspective, is that people are I suppose I definitely see that they've got high expectations. They have high
Yeah, for sure.
expectations. They are no longer kind of bought into the fact that, that they get pizza Friday and beers on Friday. People actually want to work for a company that means something, and that they want to see that there's a growth, that there's a level of growth for them. What's their diversity? What does the company actually stand for?
The values.
The values. And I think that a lot of companies kind of did that in lip service so the last couple of years, and candidates now actually want to see, well, actually, what are your diversity policies? What are your actual values? And that it's not just around, that you've got ball pools and whatever else in your offices. So it's differently. Where we're also seeing a huge amount at the moment is, obviously there's a massive switch back from remote back to the office. So we're seeing a lot of candidates coming in at the moment that want to remain somewhat flexible, want to have that hybrid approach or that remote approach.
Yeah.
So people coming back onto the market.
And what's your view? What is your view on that? Because that is very topical, Crystal, like in terms of productivity in the office versus productivity at home.
I think that my opinion was changed recently when I was talking to Tracy Keogh from Grow Remote.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah,
I would have, so we're 100% remote
yeah,
company.
yeah.
And I would have always tried to push, I would hope isn't a strong a word, push my values on people, saying that remote working is excellent. It works really well for me. We've never been as productive as a company. Remote working really, really works for us. Her opinion, which I actually have come to agree with, was that you can't force remote working into a company that doesn't want to do it. So, for example, if your company is 20 or 30 years old, they are not set up for remote working, the management and leadership are not into remote working, it is never going to work. It just isn't going to adapt to it. So, there are companies that remote working will work for because that's how they're set up, and they want to do it that way. And then there's companies that, from a management perspective, they just don't want to, and that's
Sure.
fine.
Yeah.
I like remote working. I have lots of people I've worked with in the past and now who remote working isn't for them, and that's fine too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
100%. Yeah.
it's
So
not
not suitable
one
for everybody.
exactly.
Okay. Okay.
And then I would
Okay.
also say, from a productivity perspective, Barry, we work really hard for making remote working work for us.
Yeah.
We do lots of meetings. So from a hiring perspective, I do see that coming back now, that people who want to remote work are obviously being called back to the office. So now they're looking for jobs that actually offer them that.
Sure. And we're seeing that. Yeah, and
Yeah.
we advise clients, if they have a very strong hybrid policy, it will definitely help attract better quality talent. So, that's certainly the upside. But no, that's really interesting, Crystal. And I think we've been on for over 5 minutes, and we haven't mentioned AI yet. So,
That was your record.
I think we're mandated now these days to talk about AI. So, just with that, I'd love to get your thoughts on. I mean, my view and our view generally is that, and we're advising clients that really AI needs to be in every single job description. I mean, I find I struggle really to find a job description where AI shouldn't be somewhere in terms of the experience required or the duties. And we see the conversation shift with HR from kind of the numbers of hires that they need to the output per hire as a result of AI. I mean, what are your thoughts around that and how AI is impacting productivity?
I would agree with you, Barry. I think that two things from a HR perspective, I don't think AI will replace HR or recruitment, but you are going to be replaced as a HR professional if you're not able to use AI. It
Sure.
would be my opinion.
Hmm.
So I don't agree with, I was at an event recently and there was some recruitment tool that basically you went to the person's website and they didn't have a job advertised. You just filled out all this application, and at the end of the day, it completely went through AI to decide what job you would be a fit for and whether you were hired or not hired. So like, I don't agree that AI is going to take over that much, and maybe I'll be proved wrong in 10 years. But from completely from advertising to hiring, I do think that there are lots of mundane tasks from both a recruitment and HR perspective that can be replaced by AI. We spoke earlier about screening candidates, all that replying, all that if you get
The
2,000
repetitive
candidates,
tasks.
the
Yeah.
repetitive tasks I think can be a huge amount. I use it every single day in my own job. Actually, I had this discussion with my father recently, and I said about 60% of my job goes through. I'm using AI for now. And
Yeah.
that's, from reporting perspective, from, just any of the financial reports or anything like that, it's so much easier for me now to gain the information.
Hmm.
And so I definitely think that there are two trains of thought in that, is that I see people who are very scared of it, and that is valid. However, you need to get on the bus. I
Yeah,
think
no,
you have
100%.
to get on the bus with it.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And like, where do you see AI having kind of a practical impact in HR, maybe specifically over the next few years?
I think from an AI perspective, if you look from HR about all your processes, right? So even if from a purely, now I know that there was a case recently from a WRC perspective where somebody got caught out about doing all their research through AI. Don't do that.
Hmm.
But from a purely practical AI perspective, if you're looking at formatting all your processes, you can throw them all into AI to format them correctly. If from your handbook, making sure that it's up to date and compliant. From a recruitment perspective, I would definitely agree with you. All those agentic AI pieces,
Hmm.
absolutely. Where we're looking at the moment as well is if you've got 200 staff and you're being asked for questions in regards to what's your maternity leave, what's your
Hmm.
policies, that you have an agentic AI, if you have an agent there who's able to answer all those questions for you.
Yeah.
So all those kind of mundane questions that there probably are in the handbook and the employee is able to find them, but or even it's just a case of producing salary certs, all that kind of everyday admin, I think the agents absolutely can replace that in time.
Yeah, and I think there's lots of good data out there, isn't there? That
Mm.
in terms of the amount of time SMEs are spending per week on manual HR administration. I think it's at least 10 hours a week.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, organizations spending hours, managing HR tasks through spreadsheets or workflows. So it's really kind of trying to free up that time to allow the HR professionals focus on kind of things like culture and employee
Yeah.
experience,
But
etc.
also, Barry, it's like, what does the data actually mean? Like,
Mm.
say, for example, people are petrified about the gender pay gap and the pay transparency coming in. So we can produce the report, that's fine. But like, if you used an agent to actually go, okay, well, can you identify trends, or what does it actually mean? Are there things specifically that there's a trend towards it?
Sure.
That's more than what any human brain can do. What can the AI actually pick out from a trend perspective? I think is
100%.
really, really helpful.
Yeah. So then jumping forward, maybe even 3 to 5 years, what do you think the best companies will be doing differently when it comes to managing talent and building strong teams?
I think from a building strong teams perspective, I think I think the design of jobs will be different. What do I mean by that? I think that your job design will focus on no longer so much on the administration, so the actual job needs to be done perspective. It'll actually start focusing on job satisfaction and job creation. So what do you actually do because I mean, we're going through, I suppose, the whatever revolution we're at this stage from a job perspective. So now let's start looking at actual job design. So if we look at, okay, if we take out all the repetitive admin tasks from a day-to-day perspective, what's left? So the HR perspective, from a HR perspective, if they no longer have to sift through 2,000 applications from a recruitment perspective, if they no longer have to answer 600 questions from people looking at, from a day-to-day perspective, looking at for their maternity leave policy and miscarriage policy and all of whatever it is, what can you start doing with your time? So So now let's start to decide jobs. Okay, so what's the output? The output is that let's focus on, for example, from a pay transparency perspective or a gender pay gap perspective. What do we now want to actually do and actually influence within that company? Who do we actually want to be? So you no longer start to just be lost in worlds of admin and start focusing on actually having an impact on your job that actually impacts the company's culture and future of the company.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And if you were advising maybe a founder today, what's the one thing that they should prioritize when it comes to people and culture?
I suppose for me, so we went through a round of investment in 2022, 23. We did all the wrong things. So, and so,
It's a good way to start.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
what I would say from an advice perspective is that don't hire too many people. Don't hire
Okay.
to grow. Don't hire to grow. Success is not about headcount. You need to be able to pay them to make sure that. So, for example, just because hiring is in your budget, there's two sides to your budget. There's sales, so you need to be hitting your sales targets, and once you hit your sales target, that allows you to hire people. So don't hire to grow. And then my next advice would be from a leadership perspective or from a founder perspective is hire people who challenge you. Your job is to make sure that you hire people who are better than you. That you hire the right people in the room who are far more intelligent and better than you are.
Yeah, no, that's a great advice. And then just a quick add-on to that, quick follow-on. Like, how do you build a great culture in a remote first environment? Speaking to different, chief people officers and founders, it is a kind of a challenge that I don't think has been fully kind of solved yet.
So I think that I'll tell you what we do that works for us is if you were to start today in HRLocker, after week 1 or 2, you'd go, oh my goodness, these people have so many meetings. But we do have meetings because we have so many meetings because we have to create that culture that isn't that you don't just bump into somebody at the water cooler time or bump into somebody having tea or coffee. So every single department or team here have their stand-ups in the morning. So everybody gets a quick 10-minute meeting to say any blockers today, anything going on, how can we be of help? Just focused on do you need any help or support today? We also have monthly check-ins from a management perspective, and very most of the time those monthly check-ins aren't, are you doing your job? It's more about, do you need any help, support? Do you need is your laptop working? Do you need another screen? That kind of thing. And then we also have quarterly reviews as well. We have our monthly company catch up. So we do a lot of things like that. We also do things that from a HR perspective, like we're a 35-man company, but we have a full-time HR person. So we're quite a small company to have a HR person. But that HR, she's probably the reason why remote works for us, because when we do our walking challenges and we do our survey, like we do a lot to make sure that people are included. And then on top of that, we also do we do a yearly get together where it costs a lot of money to fly people in from everywhere. We get together for 2 days. Some of that a lot of it is based on learning, and that we want to get people, I suppose, what's the purpose of it? The purpose is that people are meeting each other. And then we do quarterly meetups for each of the teams as well. So it doesn't just happen.
Yeah, it's hard. You have to work hard at it, right?
To work hard at it. To work.
For sure.
And you have to hire right people. A huge like red flag for me is if I'm interviewing somebody and I say, well, why do you want to remote work? And they say, oh, because I just think it'd be great not to have put the children in childcare. No, that's not going to work. You are supposed to have a dedicated space in your office at home where you're actually working.
Yeah. I know what you mean. It's not to juggle kind of multiple domestic
No.
duties and your work at the same time. Yeah, for sure. And just to finish then, Crystal, there's some really great practical tips there for companies. So thanks for that. But obviously HRLocker has been through such an interesting time over the past number of years, from your own acquisition to you acquiring companies like HireHive. What's next for HRLocker?
What's next? So we have obviously made three purchases. We've purchased HireHive, Web Onboarding, and Work Compass. So our next focus over the next 6 to 12 months is bring all those products together and really, really focus on we bought the best in class systems, bring them together and become a one-stop shop for HR. So if you want to come in and just start small, from your day-to-day HR perspective, you start with HRLocker, and then you can grow with us from a performance management perspective to your onboarding or to your applicant tracking side of it. So really, I suppose supporting our customers throughout their growth journey.
Brilliant. Well, that's a great way to finish. Thanks so much, Crystal, for joining us today. And thanks to everyone for listening. And please check us out where you get your podcasts.